For the first 30 years that I was in the computer security business, I often wondered what I was doing. I didn't have a product or a service. I did not even have a customer. The computer was so sparse that it was not even important. Was I making a difference? Part of me really wanted to go back to project management, at which I was better than the average bear. The projects might not have made an existential difference, but I knew that I had done them well, satisfying. Even today, I get discouraged when I look at healthcare and see that safety and privacy are being used as an excuse not to automate health records. I get discouraged. When I look at the payment card industry, I get really discouraged. When I look at SCADA, I get discouraged. When I read about online banking being used to rip off another small business, nonprofit, or municipality, I get angry. I get angrier still when the courts and regulators permit or even encourage the banks to escape their fundamental responsibility to ensure that all transactions are properly authorized. I have the good grace, not to say good sense, to be chagrined when I hear that another enterprise has been completely compromised because a user clicked on an obvious bait message, or even on an artfully crafted one. I'm sad when I see that high school Harry Hacker has grown up into the organized criminal of the day and is being recruited as a spy by governments all over the world. I'm shamed when so-called security researchers publish exploits for obscure vulnerabilities rather than workarounds for those that are being actively exploited. I'm shamed when rogue hackers identify themselves as security consultants and claim that they are just trying to be helpful, just doing what security people do. I feel a sense of failure when I see the US government security, the best in the world for decades, at least during the Cold War, has all but fallen apart. That it misclassifies, undervets and supervises, overclears, and over-relies upon clearances. The result of that, of course, is WikiLeaks and all of the things that go with it. However, even WikiLeaks might be tolerable if it were not typical, if the entire government was not such a large source of leaks of sensitive and personal information. Now, we security people are probably not unique among professionals for holding ourselves to a very high expectation and then being disappointed with our results. In order to keep my perspective, not to mention my self-respect, I've put a Post-it on my bathroom mirror. I read it several times a day. It says, "We are not about perfection." That's right. It's not my job to prevent all leaks and losses. Not my job to make the world safe for democracy, or even the internet safe for all applications. It is not my job to prevent all the 7 deadly sins, the motives for the things that we do wrong. I'm not responsible for every unchecked input, much less preventing all the SQL injection and buffer overflow attacks that exploit them. It's not my fault that the banking industry has consistently and persistently ignored my sage advice to confirm all changes of address to the old address and unusual transactions out of band, to change from magstripe and PIN to smart cards, and even to use strong authentication. While I have to advocate that all internet-facing applications should use the OWASP Enterprise Security API, I'm not responsible for most of the failures to do so. While I'm responsible for using every teaching and training hour efficiently, I should not condemn myself for failing to communicate the entire canon in an hour, or not rationalizing all media coverage and political thought. Our job is to make the world better with us in it than it would be without us. Fortunately, we have such leverage that we can do that. While we do not make the world perfect, we do make an existential difference. As security professionals, we are expected to know that some losses are cheaper to tolerate than to prevent, some damage cheaper to repair than to resist. That no matter what they think they want, no one really wants perfect security. We are expected to know that the cost of security curve is not linear, that to have one's risks, one must double one's cost, and that the better one's security already is, the less efficient the next dollar spent. Our job is to ensure that all the systems, applications, networks, and enterprises in our care get the protection that is appropriate to their sensitivity and the environment in which they operate, and that expensive security measures are reserved only for the targets that require them. Said another way, our job includes avoiding the use of inefficient measures. Our job is more about efficiency than effectiveness. If we prevent a loss or save the cost of a protective measure, in either case, the impact falls right through the bottom line of the enterprise, the line called profit, the one that measures enterprise efficiency, the one that contributes to the productivity of the economy. Our job is to ensure that the sum of the cost of losses and the cost of security is at a minimum. Now, that minimum is impossible to know at any given point in time. It's a balancing act at best. It's not stable. It moves as the threat changes and as the cost of technology falls. It takes both measurement and management to even approach it over time. However, that is our job and our opportunity. That is how we make the world work better and justify our existence. If it were easy, they'd give it to somebody else. Only when we rationalize our expectations of ourselves, communicate those expectations to our employers and clients, and measure ourselves appropriately against them, will we be satisfied with our jobs, appreciated as professionals, and paid the big bucks. See you next week.
Sage advice, all wise one. Sage advice. Thanks again, Bill. Certainly appreciate it.